It happened on a night when the wind screamed louder than any wild beast. The storm outside was so strong it shook the walls I had built from shipwreckage and scavenged metal. I was alone, as I had been for months, and loneliness weighed on me heavier than the cold. I thought I had sealed the shelter tight. I thought nothing could get in without me knowing. But then the flap at the entrance shifted, and a figure stumbled inside. At first, my heart leapt in fear. I thought it was one of the predators from the icy plains, the ones that stalk at night, always waiting for a chance. But it wasn't. It was someone smaller, thinner, shivering so hard she could barely stand. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes, large and glowing faintly in the dark. Alien. She clutched her arms close, frost stuck to her clothes, her breaths ragged like she had run for miles. Before I could even rise from my cot, she moved toward me, collapsed onto the furs and curled against me as if she had been here all along. I froze. Part of me wanted to shove her away. This was my shelter, my space, my only safe place in the world. Every scrap of warmth mattered. Every bite of food mattered. I couldn't afford a stranger. But another part of me, the part that remembered what it meant to be human, couldn't do it. I looked at her shaking body and thought, if I put her out there again, she won't last the night, so I let her stay. We didn't speak that night. She didn't even look at me. She just pressed close, like she belonged there. And slowly her breathing evened out as sleep took her. I stayed awake a long time, staring at the flickering lamp and listening to the storm, wondering why the universe had sent her to me. In the morning, she was still there. When I sat up, she startled like a frightened animal. Her eyes darted to the door as if expecting me to throw her out. I almost did. But then I saw how thin she was, how her hands trembled when she tried to gather her pack, and something inside me softened. I broke the last of my ration bar in half and offered her a piece. She blinked, stared at it like she didn't understand, then slowly took it. Her fingers brushed mine, cold as ice. We ate in silence. Over the next days, she kept coming back. Sometimes she left during daylight, wandering out into the frozen wastes, but every night she returned. Always the same way, slipping inside, curling against me as if the spot was hers. At first it annoyed me. I had been alone so long I had gotten used to it. But soon the silence between us didn't feel heavy anymore. One evening I tried speaking to her. "Name?" I asked, tapping my chest. "Evan." She tilted her head, then touched her chest. The sound she made was soft, hard. For me to repeat, it sounded like Lyra. From then on, I called her that. Our words were clumsy. Just pieces of human tongue and pieces of hers. But slowly, meaning grew between us. She told me, through gestures, broken words, and drawings scratched in the frost, that her people had abandoned her after a failed hunt. She had nowhere else to go. I understood more than I wanted to admit. I too had been left behind when my outpost collapsed. I too had wandered alone, wondering if anyone would ever find me again. In her eyes I saw my own reflection. Days turned into weeks. We hunted together, searched for fuel together. Even laughed once when she tried to mimic the way I stumbled in the snow. It was strange, having someone beside me again. It was stranger still how much I wanted her to stay. But sometimes when the fire was low and the cold crept in, I felt a sadness I couldn't explain. I missed people I used to know, my crew, my family back on Earth. Even if I could never see them again, the ache remained. I thought about how far away they were, how distant I had become from everyone I once cared about. Lyra seemed to sense it. One night, when I sat staring into the fire with that hollow look in my chest, she nudged my shoulder and whispered the only human word she had learned perfectly. Home. Just that one word. It was simple, but it carried hope. She was telling me that maybe we could build one here together. For the first time in months, I believed it. Then came the day we saw the light, a faint pulse on the horizon, blinking against the storm. A human beacon. Rescue. My heart raced. I could almost hear the voices of my people again. But to reach it meant leaving the shelter, crossing miles of frozen wasteland, risking death for a chance at hope. I hesitated. If I went alone, I might move faster. But when I looked at Lyra, I knew I couldn't leave her behind. Together, I said. She nodded without hesitation. We walked into the storm side by side. It was brutal. The wind cut like knives and snow buried our tracks faster than we could make them. Predators circled in the distance. More than once Lyra stumbled and I caught her. When I fell, she pulled me up. Finally, after what felt like endless hours, we reached the beacon. I collapsed to my knees, half carrying her, half being carried, by the thought of survival. The rescue shuttle descended from the clouds, lights cutting through the storm. The crew rushed out, surprised to see not just a human, but an alien girl pressed close against him like she belonged there. When they lifted us aboard, she did the same thing she had done that first night. She curled up against me like it was her spot, and I let her, because it was. She broke into my shelter, then curled up against me like it was her spot. And now I knew she always would. The rescue ship was warm, too warm after months of frozen nights in the shelter. The heat stung my skin, but what stung more was the thought that this might be the end of the strange, fragile world Lyra and I had built together. Humans crowded around us, doctors and crew asking questions, scanning, checking vitals. I answered what I could, but my eyes kept drifting to her. She clung close to me at first, nervous in the crowd. But then the look started, curious, suspicious, even hostile. Some of the crew whispered about her. Alien, untrustworthy, dangerous. I hated it. For weeks she had been my only friend, my anchor in the storm. She was the reason I had kept walking when my body begged to stop. But here among my own people she was suddenly seen as an intruder. One officer finally said the words I feared. "We'll have to separate you. Protocol. She'll be taken to the Alien Relations Department for study and care." Study.care.words. That sounded neat and official, but I could see what they meant. Walls, distance, maybe even cages. That night before they moved her, she curled against me again in the bunk they gave us. I held her tighter than I ever had. "They'll take you," I whispered. "But I'll find you. I promise." Her eyes shimmered. She said only one word. Our word. Home. Then morning came, and she was gone. The ship carried us to the central colony on the nearest habitable planet. It was supposed to feel like salvation. There were cities, lights, food that didn't taste like dust. I should have been grateful. But everywhere I went, the space beside me was empty. I kept looking for her in the crowd. Every glimpse of blue skin made my heart jump, only for it to sink when it wasn't her. I asked the officers where she had been taken, but the answers were vague. Under observation. Safe. Classified. Classified. Weeks passed. I tried to adjust. I took a small job repairing broken drones, earning credits to survive. People smiled at me, welcomed me back, said I was lucky. But inside I felt hollow. Every night I lay down in a bed that was too wide, too cold, and I remembered the way she used to curl against me, like the world made sense only when we shared warmth. I felt distant, not only from her, but from myself. One evening, as I walked home through the colony's narrow streets, I passed by a group of children. They were laughing, chasing one another, and for a brief moment I envied them. Then I saw what they were throwing back and forth, a crumpled piece of paper with a strange mark drawn on it. I froze. The mark was one Lyra had once traced for me in the frost of our shelter wall, her people's symbol for friend. My heart pounded. I rushed to the children kneeling down. "Where did you get this?" They shrugged. "A lady gave it to us. Blue skin. Funny words. Lyra." Hope surged in me like fire. She was here, close. She hadn't forgotten me. Finding her wasn't easy. The colony was big and official records were locked behind walls I couldn't break. But I searched anyway. Every free hour I walked the alleys, the markets, the quiet corners. Sometimes I thought about giving up. The distance felt unbearable. But then I remembered what she had whispered in the storm. Home. Humans don't give up. Not when someone they care about is out there. Weeks later, I found her. It was late. The streets were nearly empty, the lamps glowing weakly in the fog. I turned a corner and there she was, standing near the edge of the colony gates, staring out at the mountains beyond. My breath caught. She looked thinner, tired. But it was her. When she turned, her eyes widened the same way mine did. For a moment, we just stared at each other, the distance of weeks heavy between us. Then she ran, not away, from me. She ran into my arms. And once again, just like that first night, she curled against me as if it was her spot. We didn't have words for all the things we wanted to say. But maybe we didn't need them. We found a quiet place, away from watching eyes, and sat close. I told her how empty it had felt without her. She touched my chest and whispered the human word she loved. Home. I knew then that home wasn't a place. It wasn't a shelter of metal scraps or a bunk on a rescue ship or even a shining colony city. Home was the warmth we shared, the bond we refused to let the universe take from us. I didn't know how long we could stay together. Maybe the officials would try to pull us apart again. Maybe distance would threaten us once more. But I also knew this. Humans keep